There is a common image of older men that persists in our culture. People assume that as a man ages, he becomes more stubborn, that retirement means slowing down, becoming irrelevant, stepping aside. They believe that wealthy seniors enjoy showing off, that a quiet man has somehow lost his ambition, and that choosing simplicity is a sign of failure. But here is the truth that only decades of living can reveal. The wise senior man's choices are not driven by fear, weakness, or age. They are the culmination of experience, discipline, and a perspective that younger men simply cannot buy. The question we explore today is this: why do the wisest senior men never let their emotions control their money? Perhaps you have watched younger men chase luxury, accumulating debt to project an image of success. You have seen friends make financial decisions based on fear, selling low during market dips, buying high during euphoria. You have witnessed family members asking for loans that will never be repaid, driven by emotional pleas rather than sound reasoning, and you have recognized the quiet peace that comes from saying no. This is not about being ungenerous. It is about being disciplined. It is about understanding that money, when controlled by emotion, becomes a master. When controlled by wisdom, it becomes a tool for freedom. Consider the Stoic philosophers, who understood this relationship between inner peace and external possessions 2,000 years ago. Epictetus, a man who knew the sting of poverty and the weight of slavery, taught that we must distinguish between what is within our control and what is not. He wrote, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." This is the foundation of the financially disciplined senior man's daily routine. Not a rigid schedule of checking stock prices, not a frantic effort to out-earn inflation, a quiet, daily practice of distinguishing between his wants and his needs, and choosing to want less. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor who commanded armies and governed an empire, wrote in his Meditations, "If you seek tranquility, do less." He was not advising laziness, he was advising focus. He was saying that a man of wisdom does not scatter his energy across 100 unnecessary pursuits. He focuses on what matters and lets the rest go. For the senior man, this Stoic principle translates directly into financial discipline. The daily routine is not about checking the markets obsessively. It is about protecting your peace, whether the market is up or down. It is about recognizing that real wealth begins where the need to impress ends. Modern psychology supports what the Stoics knew intuitively. There is a concept called loss aversion, first identified by Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky. It is the observation that people feel the pain of a loss about twice as powerfully as they feel the pleasure of a gain. This is why a man in his 60s might panic when the market drops, even though his portfolio has grown steadily over 40 years. Research from Barclays Wealth has shown that as men age, they naturally become more composed and less stressed about their finances. The data indicates that older investors are significantly less likely to trade frequently and less likely to believe that one must buy and sell often to do well in financial markets. They are more satisfied with their financial situations, and they are far less likely to endorse frequent trading. Why? Because they have learned that emotional reactions to market news lead to poorer long-term performance. Studies have found that men are particularly susceptible to allowing emotions from unrelated situations to carry over into their financial decisions. One study showed that after watching negative news stories, men tended to avoid financial risks, even when those risks were completely rational and unrelated to the news. The researchers found that women's decisions remained unaffected by the emotional news, while men's decisions were swayed. This suggests that the wise senior man has developed a crucial skill, the ability to recognize when his emotions are driving his financial decisions and to step back. He has learned that the goal is not to remove emotion from money decisions entirely. That is impossible. The goal is to recognize when emotion is making the decision for him. Consider a scenario. A wise senior man watches a younger relative purchase a luxury vehicle, a beautiful car, gleaming in the showroom. The relative is excited, imagining the admiration of his peers. The price is significant, requiring a loan that will stretch his budget for years. The older man smiles, congratulates the younger man, and drives home in his 10-year-old sedan. He is not envious, He is not judging. He understands what the younger man has not yet learned. The thrill of the purchase fades. The monthly payments remain. This is hedonic adaptation, the psychological tendency for people to quickly return to a baseline level of happiness after a positive or negative event. The new car, the larger house, the expensive watch. They provide a spike of joy, and then the joy fades. The burden of the debt continues. The disciplined senior man has learned to ask a different question. Not what will this purchase say about me, but what will the memory of this purchase feel like in 3 months, in 3 years? He has learned to find pleasure not in acquisition but in freedom. Freedom from debt, freedom from the need to impress, freedom from the worry of financial ruin. This is delayed gratification, the ability to resist a smaller, immediate reward in favor of a larger, later one. The Stanford marshmallow experiments made this concept famous. But for the senior man, delayed gratification is not a childhood experiment. It is a way of life. He has spent decades choosing long-term financial health over short-term pleasure, and now he is reaping the reward. Another principle is present bias, the tendency to prioritize immediate rewards over future ones. This is why many young people struggle to save for retirement. The immediate pleasure of spending feels more vivid than the abstract future, but the wise senior man has overcome present bias. He has done it through daily, deliberate practice. He has built a routine where financial decisions are made from a position of calm and reflection, not from the heat of the moment. His daily routine is simple but powerful. Perhaps each morning, he reviews his spending plan, not with anxiety, but with gratitude. He checks his accounts not to see how much he can spend, but to appreciate the security that discipline has built. He may spend a few minutes reading Stoic philosophy, reminding himself of the distinction between what he controls and what he does not. Financial therapy professionals note that for many wealthy men, financial stress often presents as dominance, overwork, or compulsive acquisition. These behaviors may look like confidence, but they are often emotionally reactive, driven by deeper psychological needs. The senior man who has done the inner work recognizes this pattern. He understands that money decisions are rarely just about money. They are about security. They are about self-worth. They are about the fear of being seen as weak. One of the most telling findings in behavioral finance is the relationship between desire for financial discipline and age. A Barclays Wealth survey found that 53% of respondents under 45 wished they could take a more disciplined approach to their finances. That number dropped to just 26% for those over 65. The disciplined senior man is not a minority. He is the norm. He has lived long enough to know that discipline is not restriction. It is freedom. Think of the common situations that test a senior man's financial discipline: watching younger people chase luxury and feeling no need to join them, choosing peace over an expensive lifestyle that others might admire, saying no to financially irresponsible relatives who come with emotional pleas, refusing to co-sign loans, not because he lacks faith in his family, but because he understands that love and money should not be entangled in that way, keeping his retirement savings private because he knows that a quiet bank account is often stronger than a loud lifestyle, living comfortably below his means, not out of lack but out of abundance of perspective, avoiding financial arguments because he knows that a peaceful life is the greatest return on investment. Each of these situations involves emotional tension. Each offers the opportunity to act from fear or from wisdom. The Stoic insight is to recognize that the emotion itself is not the problem, it is the reaction that matters. As the Roman philosopher Seneca wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." The wise senior man has internalized this truth. He does not fear losing money. He refuses to become controlled by it. He protects his peace before he protects his pride. He knows that retirement is not the end of purpose. It is the reward for a life of discipline. Now consider the reality of retirement. Some men fear retirement because they fear losing their identity, their purpose. They have spent 40 years being defined by their work, and suddenly they face an open expanse of time. But the financially disciplined senior man approaches retirement differently. He has prepared not just financially, but psychologically. He has cultivated interests beyond his career. He has deepened his relationships. He has developed a sense of purpose that does not depend on a job title. He knows that money is a tool and freedom is the goal. He understands that a peaceful life is the greatest return on investment. His daily routine is not about accumulation, but about meaning. He might spend his mornings reading, exercising, or spending time with his grandchildren. He might mentor younger men, not because he has to, but because he wants to. He might give to causes he cares about, not to be recognized, but because generosity is its own reward. This is the man who understands the difference between a legacy of wealth and a legacy of character. He teaches his grandchildren wisdom, not entitlement. He shows them the value of discipline by his example, not by his lectures. He downsizes with dignity because he knows that his identity is not in his possessions. He sells what no longer matters because he values freedom over accumulation. He protects his retirement income because he has earned the right to be secure in his old age. And he has learned to say no without guilt because he knows that a well-placed no is often an act of love. The richest senior men rarely feel the need to prove they are rich. They have nothing to prove. They have built their wealth through decades of discipline, and they enjoy the peace that comes from it. They are grateful, not for their money, but for the wisdom that allowed them to accumulate and preserve it. This is not a lesson about money. It is a lesson about the soul. The Stoics understood that external riches cannot make a man happy. Only inner tranquility can do that. And inner tranquility comes from living in accordance with reason, from accepting what you cannot control, and from focusing on what you can. Marcus Aurelius advised himself, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." The senior man who has mastered his finances has not just mastered numbers, he has mastered himself. So here is the question for you, the thoughtful viewer. What is the greatest money lesson life has taught you? What financial habit has changed your retirement? What does true wealth mean to you today? And what is the boundary you refuse to compromise? These are not rhetorical questions. They are the questions that define a life of wisdom. Let me share a final reflection. Growing older is not about becoming weaker. It is about becoming wiser, more disciplined, more patient, more financially independent, more emotionally resilient, more difficult to manipulate, more comfortable with enough, richer in character, more focused on legacy instead of recognition. True wealth is measured not by possessions but by peace of mind, by self-control, by freedom, by wisdom, by gratitude, by purpose, by strong relationships, by the legacy you leave behind. As Marcus Aurelius might have said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." Apply that to your finances. If it is not right for your peace of mind, do not spend it. If it is not true to your values, do not invest in it. The disciplined senior man lives this way. His daily routine is not a chore. It is a privilege. It is the privilege of living with wisdom. It is the privilege of protecting his peace. It is the privilege of leaving a legacy that outlives him. Seek wisdom. Protect your peace. Leave a legacy.